Hello everyone, my name is Madison Morse, and today I'm going to be discussing Bolivia's history and present-day situation with regard to both intranational and global interests. Bolivia, situated in the upper central region of South America, is home to over 10 million people and over 50 different ethnic groups. The diverse landscape and population give this country some unique qualities. With the Amazon and the Andes as prominent features in Bolivia's geography, the nation has had the ability to promote in-demand vacation spots alongside the frontrunners of both Chile and Brazil. However, Bolivia's population consists of many more diverse elements too. Because so many different ethnic groups reside in the area, over 30 languages, many of them indigenous, are recognized as official tongues. 62% of the population is of indigenous descent, and their influence can be seen throughout Bolivian culture. For example, Bolivia's current president, Evo Morales, has been in power since 2005 and is the first indigenous president to serve in Bolivia. He has focused much of his power on preserving indigenous traditions and aiding the indigenous people's health indigenous people in health, education, and economic endeavors. Unfortunately, much of this population resides in really rural areas, and 39.3% of the overall population is impoverished, and 25% of children under the age of 3 in Bolivia have suffered from malnutrition. Poverty rates have been declining, but are still drastically high and cause constant problems for the often ignored more rural population. The economic situation in Bolivia reflects this. They are listed 103rd in the world in imports and 88th in exports. The export economy relies almost 50% on petroleum gas, making the nation vulnerable to economic unrest. The nation imports a huge amount of their necessities that include cars, machinery, and many both manufactured and agricultural items. Unable to develop self-sustainable practices, the Bolivian economy suffers and the people become dependent on other nations for essentials. Fortunately, Bolivia has been on a slight upward swing with regard to the economy and have consistently produced a positive trade balance
economically and politically, but has come a long way since its suppressed beginnings and has become a diverse area proud of the strong culture that keeps it alive. Bolivia's foundation was one of outside control, much like many nations in the area. However, Bolivia's road to independence was paved by one individual in particular, Simón Bolívar. Bolívar was an influential figure in independence fights in both Colombia and Venezuela, focusing his military training and Colombia's soldiers on Peruvian influence in the early 1800s. He and Antonio José de Sucre fought with other high-ranking officials to free Peru from Spain's control. In December of 1824, Sucre led an army against the Spaniards in the Battle of Ayacucho to reclaim Peru. Sucre made the official decision to declare Bolivia, previously known as Upper Peru, an independent nation in honor of Simón Bolívar's actions for independence. Sucre led with the aid of the Colombian military from August 1825 through April of 1828. After an assassination attempt, however, he chose to leave his position and appoint a Bolivian native by the name of André de Santa Cruz, leaving Bolivians in charge of their own country for the first time in history. Bolivia's independence story differs in that no Bolivian groups existed to rise up against an oppressive ruler. Its story is directly tied to that of Peru, and consequently the most famous aspects of Bolivia's independence include the name Simón Bolívar or a reference under the name Upper Peru. Prior to Sucre, regions in Bolivia were establishing their own independences, but the nation marks August 6, 1825 as its overall Independence Day, thanks to Sucre and Bolívar. This strong tie to a foreign historical figure allows Bolivia's own fight to freedom to become background noise. The nation itself chooses to focus on the day that they were granted independence, although regions still celebrate their respective holidays. The official celebration on August 6 traditionally takes place in the city of Sucre, but in 2010 was moved to Santa Cruz and will continue to rotate main cities each year. This small step to incorporate more of the public in festivities and separate Bolivia's independence from Sucre and other specific officials seems a lighthearted way to focus on the country's strong points instead of the foreign influence of Marx's past. Because Bolivia has struggled in the global market, its ties to the United States are not on particularly even ground. U.S. intervention in Latin America has consistently reflected the interests of the United States instead of the well-being of both nations. Bolivia, as one of the historically and present-day most impoverished nations in the region, it is a prime example of the skewed relationship between countries that comes from an economic standing and resource needs. The United States has been involved in Bolivia's political and economic situation
since it gained its freedom in 1825 when Simón Bolívar declared Upper Peru a new nation. In the 1980s, Bolivia's drug trafficking problem led to a cocaine coup, which created tension between the U.S. and Bolivia and permanently changed the relationship between the two countries. Because of the coup, the United States created a non-recognition policy under Jimmy Carter that continued through parts of Ronald Reagan's administration. From 1980 and the cocaine coup through 2008, U.S. intervention and aid in Bolivia has centered on the benefits for one power instead of the mutual respect between the two nations. The U.S. size and strength has allowed it to manipulate Bolivia for its own benefit. Each time the Bolivian drug policy strengthened, U.S. interest in the nation increased. Consequently, the United States relinquished aid. Interest improved between 1985 and 1989, but in 1986, the government restricted aid because the coca production in the region was increasing. This continued through most of the century, and relations worsened until the United States decided to remove its ambassador in 2008. Since then, Bolivia has begun to assert itself more on its domestic affairs. Evo Morales has been in charge since 2005 and has given Bolivia and its citizens more of a voice. Unfortunately, the United States government is against Morales' policies, and tensions have increased. However, the indigenous population and the general citizens have gained more of a voice. They began to focus on domestic affairs and bringing back the culture and the history that is rich in Bolivia. American influence in Bolivia stopped entirely in 2009, causing even higher tensions between the two nations and a strong platform for Bolivia independent action and thinking. This may backfire and leave Bolivia alone on the world scale. However, the developing nation has seen general increase in GDP and decreasing rates of poverty since 2009. The future of the nation is uncertain, but has looked brighter in the past few years than it has in a very long time. Bolivia shows a few unusual immigration patterns, in that the largest population of immigrants from Bolivia to the United States is concentrated in northern Virginia. A small community in Arlington has emerged and continues to grow as new immigrants flock to a familiar community. Bolivian dance groups and work opportunities have been consistent in Arlington and have provided solid ground for a developing area. There are more documented Bolivian immigrants in Arlington, Virginia, than in New York City. However, these statistics do not account for the many undocumented immigrants residing in the United States. One opinion on the reasoning behind the successful journey of undocumented immigrants is the easy access that Bolivians have to a tourist visa in the United States. Once the visa expires, these immigrants can make a life for themselves in the country. Interestingly enough, many people flock to Bolivia from the United States, as well as from Spain, Brazil, and Argentina. Bolivians often immigrate to Spain as well, and the two countries have a unique trade-off. Economic opportunity has driven many Bolivians out of their own country, yet agricultural investment opportunity has brought in many foreigners. For Bolivians searching to escape the economically unstable rural country, Spain and the United States are the most popular of choice. However, the beautiful and diverse geography of Bolivia allows newcomers to thrive on an agricultural level. Interestingly enough, the rural and native population in Bolivia is mostly impoverished, yet many foreign individuals come for agricultural opportunities. Why is it that Bolivians themselves struggle to thrive, yet others seem to choose this region for investment? Bolivia is often depicted in the media, and even in scholarly texts, as a suffering nation dependent on other larger nations for survival. Bolivia's unique history and poor economic standing perpetuate the hardships that the country faces. However, the upward political, economic, and social trends that Bolivia has seen in the past few years seem to have gone unnoticed globally. As I previously mentioned, Bolivia has become politically independent from the United States in recent years, and is seeing a slow but continuous increase in GDP that parallels the decrease in poverty rates. The strong indigenous culture of Bolivia and the incredibly diverse population that the country houses are both slowly gaining voices. Evo Morales, the president of Bolivia, has been an incredible voice for Bolivian natives and has brought the silenced voices of the rural population back into play. As Latin America as a whole gains global validity and voice, Bolivia makes small strides and refuses to be left behind. When radical urbanization took place in Latin America, Bolivia followed suit, although their efforts and accomplishments are often on a much smaller scale than that of Brazil or Mexico. The sheer size of the population differences and the resources at hand put Bolivia at an immediate disadvantage. The population in Mexico City is almost equal to that of Bolivia, and more people reside in Sao Paulo than in all of Bolivia. When Bolivia's success on the global level is analyzed, its population and geographic circumstances are often ignored. Bolivia is one of only 2 landlocked South American countries, and without direct access to ports and oceans, it again becomes dependent on other nations for survival. Faced with hardships from the start, Bolivia has been improving drastically and will hopefully continue to do so. With increased political involvement from the general population, Bolivia's agenda will continue to reflect the needs of the population instead of the few elite. Remembering the rural majority is vital to Bolivia's success, and with the last month's polling rate over 80%, it seems that the nation is putting its best foot forward.